Hello, guys. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy Kudakwashe. I know it's been a minute since I've been on this YouTube channel, guys. It's been a lot. The last 2 3 months have been insane. Not in a bad way. In some of the most best ways possible. Like for example, I just celebrated my birthday in early this month. Or actually, why am I saying early this month? It was literally just a week and a half ago, or a week ago. I just celebrated my birthday on the 5th of January. Before that, it was Thanksgiving, it was Christmas, it was many other great things happening in my life, and I just didn't have a chance to sit down and record a video. But then I started thinking about some of the promises that I'd made to you guys as my viewers on this channel, and I felt like I needed to come back and pick it back up. One of the big promises that I made was that I was going to make a video about my journey, looking back at each and every month, looking back at the decisions I made, the outcomes of those decisions, and how I would have done it differently if I was to go back. And that pertains to my experience interviewing, applying to different companies, and getting through the process. And I'd say that I would make a video every week about each month, leading from November 2023 to the day that I said I would get an offer. I would be doing every month from then to the day that I get an offer. And I can't share right now if I did get an offer or not, or where I'm at. I just want you guys to appreciate the journey as it happened. And so the next video, which is this video, is about month number 2, which was, so I did December 2023. So now I'm going to do January, which is perfect because we're in January. So I'm going to do January 2024, what happened in that month, the companies that I interviewed with. I think part of it will be also looking into December, from December 2023 to January 2024, like the companies I applied to, what transpired, what the interviews looked like, what I learned in general that I can share with you guys to make your journey better. So let's do that. Let's just get into it. So I think part of this is going to be me sharing my calendar, because some people, like when I put out, I remember when I put out the thing that, like, hey, I had interviewed with over, when I said I had interviewed over 70 companies and had done over 200 interviews, some people were like, yeah, how could that be true? Whatever, maybe he's lying. It's a clickbait, whatever. Well, first of all, I would never lie to you guys. Second of all, I don't lie, or I try not to lie for most of my life. Maybe I can count in my hands like the number of lies that I've told, at least intentionally. I don't lie, basically. That's my point. And I didn't lie to you guys. And part of it is also I want you to see how the journey actually looked like. I want you to see the invites on my calendar and what I did that month. And then we're just going to learn the past together. Almost like this is me reliving some of that. And it's good for me because I get to look back at some of that. So let's go back to, that is 2020. So let's go back to December. To December 2023. And I may have to cover some of the stuff that we find out because I'm doing this raw, guys. I haven't done a first edit to make sure that there's no embarrassing things that I don't want you guys to see. So if you see anything that's embarrassing, please close your eyes. So let's so as you can see, I had a recruiter screen with Envoy, December 27th. This is literally right after Christmas. But I think this entire month, actually, let's go back to the beginning of the month. Let's go to that. So I did an Amazon assessment. Let's go back to that week. Ooh wee. So as you can see, this week in end of November, beginning December, I had a phone screen here. What was this? Salesforce. And a call with Netflix, a Google chat with Cindy, who was my recruiter at Google, and I was also talking to OpenAI because Sarah works for OpenAI, and I was talking to Meta. I wonder when I scheduled the phone screens. So let's see here. So I scheduled I was talking to this company called Flagship. I was talking to Deloitte. Guys, you see, when I say that I've interviewed so many companies, look, I'm not making this stuff up. So I think her name is Christy. So Christy was still working at Salesforce at this time, and she was helping me through the interview process. And then Airbnb. I think I've already talked about my experience with Airbnb, but I also interviewed with Sigma Computing. I interviewed with Chime. So this was my phone screen. I did my phone screen with OpenAI. So this is December 5th. And then I had an interview with Roblox. This was my first phone screen with Roblox actually. And this is interesting. And then here I was thinking I would interview with TikTok again. So I had talked to TikTok, and they were trying to schedule me for a follow-up interview. And I remember I was trying to figure out when they would chat with me. And then I talked to Orb. Oh my God, this guy's wasted my time. So let's look back at the second week. And so I'm just going to look at the week in a row, just like this. And then we'll talk about special events that happened in this month. And we'll look back at some of the decisions I made, and what I would do differently now looking back. So let's see here. So I had an interview with Patreon. Oh my God, guys. So look, the first week of December, I have like how many phone screens here? So I have one with Roblox. I have one. This is a recruiter phone screen with. I forgot what company this is. This is Bella Cohen. I forgot what was Bella work for. Anyway, I'll look back. And then I had a chat with Notion, and then OpenAI, of course, and then Sigma Computing. These were phone screens. So this was a Sigma phone screen with Airbnb and taking a phone screen with Sigma Computing. And then, so I had 3 or 4 phone screens on this. I had like 2, an Airbnb phone screen, a Sigma Computing phone screen, a Chime phone screen. This phone screen went well, by the way. I ended up going on site with them, and I'll tell you more about that and what I would have done differently. I think you'll see the on-site somewhere here. So this was the virtual on-site with the Airbnb, as you can see here. So I had an experience interview, an architecture interview, a coding interview, and another coding interview. And then I had an interview with a hiring manager at Stripe, actually, that second week before my on-site. And then I had a Facebook. Oh my God. This is one of the decisions that I made that I want to talk to you guys about. A bad decision that I made. That now I'm not a rookie anymore. I would never make the decision again. I had a phone screen at 10 a.m., a Facebook phone screen at 10 a.m. And that's 2 interviews, right? Because they ask you 2 questions, as you guys may know. And then right after that, I had a hiring manager interview with someone from Stripe, with a hiring manager at Stripe. And then after that, I had a virtual on-site. That's like 4 other interviews. So in one day, I had about 4, 6, 7 interviews in one day. That didn't make any sense. I would never do that. And these are different companies, and I'm having to code switch. God, why did I do that? Okay, so we will talk more about that. But before I forget, in case I forget, never do that. Don't schedule multiple companies in one day, because you're constantly code switching, and the chances of you being successful are very limited. Make sure that you're giving a company its full day. If it's an on-site, I strongly recommend if you can ask them to spread it over 2 days. So now what I actually did for my Discord interview, that's my most recent on-site. What I did is I spread it over 2 days. I did the hiring manager interview and the system design on one day. And then I did the coding on one day, like fully all the coding. I like to separate the coding from the system design and the behavioral. Behavioral goes very well with the system design because you're thinking about talking to someone, being conversational and stuff like that. And then coding, you could just like specifically focus on your algorithms and your data structures, which is quite nice. So I would highly, highly recommend that. Then I had an on-site as well with Benchling. So I don't remember when I did the phone screen. Maybe that's the Bella Cohen thing that we're seeing early. But I had a phone screen with Puzzle. These guys, they took me to on-site as well. This is a company that I forget to talk about, but I had a good experience with them. I have nothing bad to say about them. I think they were just looking for someone different from me. But I went on site with them, and I think you'll see it somewhere around here. Um, and they're good people. They're good people. I had some calls with Dwayne. Dwayne works for I think he works for one of the what do you call it, um, VCs. He's a VC. He works for a VC, and they try to recruit people for the startups that are under the VC. And I think the same thing with Denny. I think he works. I think this guy works for a talent company. But anyway, I had a phone screen with. I had a technical interview with Pazzo, and then I had a virtual meeting with Notion. This was my phone screen with Notion, actually. And then I had Ambient Healthcare. Okay, this was a recruiter call. So after my guys, you see the mistakes I was making. See, I had two technical phone screens from different companies. I mean, technical phone screens are fine if you realize that the companies ask kind of like similar style questions, but I still wouldn't recommend it. If you're gonna interview and you're trying to interview really quickly, maybe do a day each. I would even recommend like doing a day and then skipping the next day and then doing the next phone screen the next day. That just gives you time to code switch and like, also not take the same mistakes from one interview into the next. That's another mistake that I kept on making. So I would make a mistake, and for example, like I would realize like, oh, maybe I'm not moving as quickly, and I wouldn't have enough time to like fix that before my next interview. So don't do that. And also another thing that is probably obvious is that if you interview all your interviews in one day, then if you fail, you end up like losing all your opportunities in one day or losing all your opportunities in 1 week, which is not very smart. But if you spread them out and you prepare more and you learn from your mistakes, you're more likely to do better in the next one. So yeah, think about that, guys. And then I had an OpenAI. Oh my God, what was I doing? Guys, you see this? So I had a virtual onsite with Benchling on Wednesday. And I had an OpenAI double interview, a system design and a coding interview the next day, and a Patreon phone screen. Okay, this was the worst week. This was the worst week of my life. This is one of the weeks that I regret the most because I threw away some of the best companies I was interviewing with at the time. Like here, there's some really good companies here, and I was actually doing really well. Like, look, I had 2 virtual on-sites. I was doing really well. I had passed the phone screens, but I as a rookie, I put all these interviews in one day, right? Like I put not in one day, in 1 week. I did 2 on-sites, did a couple phone screens on the same day that I'm doing on-sites, and these are good companies. Like once you get this opportunity, you may not get it again anytime soon. And that's the problem that I ended up facing here, because once I interviewed OpenAI, they put me on like a year. Like you have to wait for a year. Facebook, at least they were friendly. They gave me another opportunity a couple months. Yeah, this was the follow-up. So they'd given me this as a follow-up because I had done well in the phone screen, but the interviewer was not convinced. He thought maybe I needed more time and to prepare, and I don't think he was very confident in one of the questions I had done. So I had asked for a follow-up because they knew that I was good. So I was like, okay, can I do a follow-up, a makeup interview? And they were like, okay, sure. So they gave me this interview. But after this, what happened was final. They were like, okay, you're going to have to wait a few months. So I had to wait for a couple months after, until a couple months ago when they reached out to me, until probably October of 2024, which is a couple months ago, they asked me to interview again. So be careful, guys. In OpenAI, that year it just finished on December 15th, which is about a month ago now. So guys, be very careful not to make this mistake here. And with Benchling, it's the same thing. I didn't actually Benchling when I interviewed with them. I realized it was not the company I wanted to be at. So, okay, let's keep going here. Okay, let me show you the next thing. So, man, things kind of died down after that. And I was kind of depressed because I knew that I hadn't done well in those interviews because I had layered them so closely. I ended up doing an interview with TikTok. I did an interview with who is this, Vimcow? I don't remember who Vimcow is. And I had an interview with Illicit. I went to the recruiting happy hour for LinkedIn. I did. This was just a chat. Automat. Okay. 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 This was a chat with my recruiter, my Google recruiter, because she was trying to recruit me to Google. And let's see. And then I had the week after that, I had a recruiter screen with Envoy and a recruiter screen with a company. I think this is a startup I was trying to go for, like with this guy called Wally Jones. He runs this startup. So let's see here. So that's December. Okay. So now let's talk about December. Oh my God. There's a lot of things. I think some of the things that I've already talked about them. So let's see if we can come up with a succinct version of those lessons, like maybe 3 lessons that you guys can take away. The first one is I made a mistake to put all my eggs in one basket. And by that I mean I interviewed within just a week. I had 2 virtual on-sites, 3 virtual on-sites actually. A virtual on-site with Airbnb, a virtual on-site with Benchling, a virtual on-site with OpenAI. It wasn't a virtual on-site, it was like a phone screen, but I layered them pretty much back to back to back. I strongly don't recommend that. And so some people may be wondering why I did that in the first place. Well, I was running with a deadline. So that was December. As you can see, that was December 13. That was this week right here. And I knew that I had a month until I was going to be kicked out of the country. And some of you may be wondering why I was, going to be kicked out of the country. But I'm on H1-B visa. That's what allows me to be in the country, in the United States. And H1-B is a visa that's given to professionals, to super professionals that are either in tech or whatever it is, that allow them to work in the country, even though they're not American. And so that visa, if you lose your job, you have 60 days from the day you lose your job to find another job, or else you have to leave the country. At least that's what I thought at the time. And that's what a lot of you guys think. But there's a nuance there that I will talk about as a lesson now. So I was really scared at the time that if I didn't find the job, then I would have to leave the country. But there are ways around it, and I'll share more on that later. But essentially, I learned not to do that, so don't do that. And the second lesson is that you actually don't only have 60 days. Technically, you're supposed to find a job in 60 days, but if you don't, before your 60-day ends, this is what you can do. So to all of you who have experiencing layoffs, are international people, please listen to this. Or if you know your friend who has lost a job and is carrying around to try and get another job, yes, they only have 60 days if they want to do, if they don't want to have to do if they don't want to have to do a transfer of status, they call it. If they don't want to have to do anything more than just have the company apply for a transfer. Actually, what am I saying? Because you still have to do that even if you do apply within the 60 days because you're leaving the company to go to another company. I think it's just like the more comfortable route, really. But if you can find a job in those 60 days, what you can do is you can transfer your status from H1-B to a visitor visa, for example, and that allows you another 66 months to find a job. And essentially what you just need to do for that visa application is let them know why you still want to stay in the country. And for me, what I let them know is that I still had friends out here. I'd lived here for a decade and was trying to put my house in order before leaving the country. But that bought me time to be able to apply while on a visitor visa because I'm legally still in the country. And it also gives you a buffer of a few months, maybe about 2 months or 3 months while they're approving your visa, right? Because it takes time for them to approve. And as long as you applied before your grace period ended, you're technically legally in the country. You're not an illegal migrant or whatever it is if your application is pending. So you get those 2 months or 3 months, depending on how quickly your application is reviewed, and then you get an extra couple months of the actual visa itself. So that's something to consider. But if you're married to someone who is on H1-B, you can also transfer status to an H4. And then the nice thing is, like, this is the part that I was scared about, or like, okay, so if I transfer my status to another visa, would I still be able to work when I get a job? The answer is yes, absolutely yes. And what they do is that USCIS, what they do is that when you get a job offer, let's say you get a job offer on month 5, you've already like essentially finished your grace period, but you applied for a change of status within your grace period. You're now on a different visa. They will just apply for a transfer from that visa back to your H1B. As long as you still had time on your H1B when you got fired or when you were released off your job, then you're fine to switch back to that. So yeah, that's basically the story, and I'm actually undergoing through that myself, so I can tell you without a hint of a doubt that it works. Okay, so that's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 is what I've already shared, where it's like, if you're gonna do an on-site interview, an on-site round, make sure you're splitting it in half. Make sure you have rest days, guys. Look, I didn't really have rest days in all of this, and I didn't have time to pick up the lessons of what I'd learned and put it into the other interviews. And also layer your companies, right? Layer your companies by importance. For example, I did all the companies I actually really wanted to go to in 1 week. That is not smart, right? So I talked to Airbnb. I was really excited about Airbnb. I was really excited about Facebook. I was really excited about Patreon, but I did all that in 1 week, which wasn't smart at all. And I think that's the same time I was also trying to do OpenAI, and Notion, which are companies that I was really excited about. So I ended up doing well in all these interviews. I did actually well. I remember my virtual interview with Notion was really good. I did really well, but it just wasn't stellar. And the reason why it wasn't stellar is not because I'm not smart. Clearly, I was getting the interviews and the on-sites. I was doing well in my phone screens, but I just didn't have enough time to really polish my preparation. And I'll let you know in later interviews how I ended up polishing those interviews, and I'll give you some advice as we get closer to those other videos, because I don't want to spoil them for you. But you can definitely polish your interviews and make sure that you're much more set up before the interview, and I strongly advise that. So I think, looking back, for example, in my Airbnb interviews, they asked me a system design question that I had actually seen on LeetCode. Like, people were talking about it on LeetCode, but for example, I hadn't had enough time to really read through and understand the system design and build it on my own before getting to the interview. I was completely clueless. Now, when I look back, I was really depressed after this interview didn't work out, but honestly, I think they made a good decision not to pick me, because at the time, I just wasn't ready, because my level of preparation recently is like day and night between the preparation that I can do now from the preparation that I thought I did at this time. So yeah, guys, that's those are my 3 lessons. One on H1-B, second on interview spread, and lastly on I forgot the third one, but you know what I already said. So make sure to listen to that. Hopefully that's helpful to you. The key moments and key highlights for this particular month in December, was definitely interviewing with Airbnb. I was super excited about the company. I really wanted to go there. My other highlight in this company and in this month was OpenAI. Interviewing with OpenAI was a dream and was super exciting. I was super excited about the product they're working on. I'm still excited about the product they're working on. And honestly, the performance I did was really on me. It wasn't on them. I think they were really friendly. I got a really good interviewer, and I did well. It just wasn't stellar. Again, it just wasn't stellar. And and I think that's the biggest thing I want to leave with you guys. Make sure that when you go interview and you get these opportunities, guys, don't waste them. Don't waste them. Make sure that when you go, you're giving a stellar performance. And I'm using the word performance not by mistake. I intentionally putting the word performance there because interviewing is a performance. Think of it if you're, in a play. Like I played Duke Orsino in high school, for example, in 12th night, and I did my lines like pretty much every day, and a few hours a day I would read my lines, and I would practice in the mirror, I would practice in the bathroom, I would practice showering, I would practice everywhere. Same applies to interviewing. Interview is really a performance. You're performing to show these people that you can do the job. And part of that performance, like what your lines really are learning the interview patterns, learning the lead code patterns, learning system design patterns, because those patterns exist. And then it's also studying the company, studying the questions they've asked other people. And then, you have to restudy them and like reread those and like redo those until you like feel like it's seamless. And that's when you're ready to actually interview. And those were the biggest, looking back, that's the biggest thing that I can share with you guys. Another thing is you just have to keep going. You fall, like I fell. This week was tough for me because I lost on some big interviews here. And as you can see, the next week was pretty slow after that. So looking back, I would have taken some of those interviews and put them here. And I would have also put some of those interviews here. But yeah, things suddenly definitely ended up picking up this first week of January. And I'll talk about that in the upcoming video. But for now, I hope this was helpful, and especially for the folks that are on H1-B. Don't stress, don't worry, don't let that affect your game. I let that affect my game. I thought I only had 60 days, but really I had more than 60 days to find a job. So hopefully that's helpful. I think if I had known that I had more than 60 days, I definitely would have done better. But I'm super grateful because how things turned out is the best way they could ever turn out, and I'm so excited to share that story with you guys in the next videos. So stay tuned and see you in the next one. Love you guys.